Hey guys, this is Yoda. This will be my preliminary guide for Theater of Pain in the War Within Season 2. Theater of Pain is one of the dungeons in the Mythic Plus pool, and goal for this guide is going to be like a little quick guide to go over some of the very basic strategies that you will use in order to do very smooth farming keys. In terms of world first pushing keys, we probably aren't going to be going over the strategies used for those in this video. So for now, almost everyone is going to be pulling this Bloodhorn into the boss. You can skip the first pack with either Imprison, Mind Soothe, Shroud, whatever. If you're not comfortable doing that, you can always just fight the first pack with the Bloodhorn. It is a pretty big time loss, but you know, if it's a nice casual group, then you can always do that. On this boss, if you pull the Bloodhorn in, generally you're going to want to be focusing it. I'm kind of targeting the wrong mob here, targeting Passerin. There's a decent amount of group damage coming out, which is from Sathel. He does put out a debuff, which is dispellable, and he also puts out Searing Death, which is a different debuff, which is not dispellable. For these swirlies here, this is from the Plague Boss. Basically, just dodge them and walk out. Ideally, you're kind of like stacked up and you move around the room like together, but if you're the tank and your group is kind of spread out, just walk like where there aren't puddles and you'll be fine. Don't bathe in these puddles, obviously, or you'll take a lot of damage. That's pretty much it. So you can set your focus to Sathel, since it's the only mob that actually casts in this pull. And just watch out for the group damage. Desia's Mighty Smash, if you can see it on Bigwigs, is a big source of group damage. So if you're not top before that, be ready to push a personal or a healing potion. All right, so that's this boss. So a lot of people are going to be doing Kul'Tharok first, since for some reason that's just what everyone does. I don't even know why. Also, a lot of people are probably going to be running to the end of this bridge. You should probably make sure everyone's on the same page before you actually do this, because sometimes people like to pull back. Tag all of the ghosts. Watch out for these swirlies on the way across the bridge. Also, these ghosts like to do bind soul on someone, so if you have like a freedom or an interrupt you can send while you're running across the bridge, that's good. High keys are probably going to be tagging this Portal Guardian. I would not expect a like low-key farming group to be doing this, because this is actually very dangerous. If you do pull all the ghosts, I would probably just run through and not pull the Portal Guardian. Once they're all grouped around the corner, you can just use whatever AoE stops you have. If you're a Demon Hunter, you have AoE Silence. This Soul Storm from the Portal Guardian is the AoE damage that it's doing, so once it starts doing Soul Storm, watch out. It does do, by the way, at the end of this Soulstorm, it does do a hit. So you can see here that it just chunks our Druid at the very end there. Also, if it decurse, you should decurse this, the first one of these debuffs, because you'll take extra damage from the Soulstorm while the Portal Guardian's up. I prefer going left here. I think right then left is also okay, but yeah, these Soul Binders are significantly nerfed from Shadowlands. So in Shadowlands, they had a debuff that had no cast time. I was just randomly put out on the party. That debuff is gone now. So they just are casting. In general, I would say Bind Soul is not a high priority kick, but Necrotic Bolt Volley is a very high priority kick. Make sure you're kicking that. The next pull, we're kind of doing both of these together, but you could do them separate as well. There's two Soul Binders, a Bone Magus, and a Portal Guardian. So these Soul Binders are casting Necrotic Bolt and Necrotic Bolt Volley. Just make sure the volley is interrupted. The Bone Magus casts Grave Spike, which is like light damage. And he also has a big cast, which is Bone Spear. Bone Spear does like massive damage. It can one-shot you. So if you're interrupting anything, I would prioritize Bone Spear and Necrotic Bolt Volley in these packs. And if you have extra AoE stops, you can assign those to Blind Soul. Obviously, there is also a Portal Guardian casting Soulstorm. If you have AoE stops, you can like stop the casters while he's casting Soulstorm, so you don't have too much overlap damage. That's this. And then I like going left, as I said, so we're going up against some of these mobs, the Dark Speakers, more Shackled Souls, and more Soul Binders. So once you pull it together, the Dark Speakers have 3 abilities. One is Death Winds, which is this. Just, you can see the animation here. Don't get hit by this. It will knock you off. The other one is this Curse. You can see it on our mage here. It permanently drops a bunch of puddles. You can decurse it also if you don't want to run around. The other ability they have is just Spirit Frost. It just permanently casts bolts on the tank, but they don't do that much damage, so you can kind of just ignore it. Also featured is the Soul Binder, so make sure Bolt Volley doesn't go off. So really it's just dodge and then kicks Bolt Volley in this pack. All right, in the next pull, it's more of the same. Kick Bone Spikes, kick Bolt Volley, don't get hit. Then we're on to Kul'Tharok. So this boss got significantly reworked. There are quite a few new things that you need to be aware of on this boss. First thing is he's spam casting Necrotic Bolt. It doesn't do that much damage, so honestly just kick and you'll be fine. Next is Death Spiral. So you can see here he's spawning these orbs. I believe these are going to be significantly slower when the game goes live. But just don't get hit. If you're the tank, you can kind of just stand still, which is actually a decent tactic because the boss has a frontal too. But if you're a DPS or a healer, don't get hit by these. This is the frontal, by the way. If you're the tank, it's kind of nice to just aim the frontal like away from the group, because you will eventually have to stack later. And the boss also puts out an ability called Well of Darkness. You'll see it in here. Well of Darkness coming up. Okay, I guess it's just not going to do Well of Darkness. Okay, here's the Well of Darkness, by the way. You can see it on the mage here and the Moonkin. It's just a debuff. Stay around from people, away from people. It also ticks you. Be very careful when you have this. Definitely don't run into a ball when you have the debuff. Here is the add mechanic. So you're gonna want to stack these up. Either probably before the fight, you should just designate a spot so everyone just drops it in the same spot. These adds will walk to the boss. If they hit the boss, it's pretty much a wipe. So you need to stop these from hitting the boss. Prioritize killing them. Also of note, by the way, on this, by the way, they can also be CC'd. On this boss, see this wall here. You must be in the boss room like a few seconds after it's pulled. Otherwise, you can get locked out. You cannot hit the boss. So just make sure it doesn't happen. By the way, you can also dip into the middle of the boss for 1 second. Doesn't tick. And then dip back out but you cannot just like bathe in the middle. All right, so that's this boss. Repeats from there. All in all, it's basically just dodge. That's basically all there is to it. Going into the next wing. So this first pull here, pretty much everyone is going to be pulling like the whole room here. Probably not the patrol, but at least the whole first room. In this room, there are 2 sludge spewers. So if you have colored nameplates, it's very important to color these. Do not let, they only cast 1 thing now, and it's Withering Discharge. Just make sure 1 person is responsible for each. Set them to focus, and do not let them cast Withering Discharge, because that's probably going to be a wipe unless the key is too low, in which case you'll just take a lot of damage. Actually, this goes off here, and you can see us kind of get hit pretty hard, but you know, we're fully geared, so we're not wiping. If you do choose to pull the patrol, it's an extra tank mob, which is the Putrid Butcher, and also 2 more sludge spewers. So you need to interrupt all 4. Also of note, when these mobs die, they drop a puddle. Do not be in the puddle or you will die. Okay, that's this pull. Diseased Horror just has a cast meat shield, which you can interrupt, but if you don't, he just gets a shield. He also hits the tank with a disease, which you should dispel. It reduces your max health, but if you don't have a disease dispel, you know, oh well. So how to skip this part? We get to this part and then look left and right. You look both ways before crossing the street. So I noticed that this gas bag will not, these gas bags patrol around. You really don't want to play these. I can see that he won't be at the entrance, so I'm going to walk around here. They basically patrol like from there where my mouse is to here. I think someone actually pulls this. He dies and we just summon him. Just be super careful with these skips. You can always play it safe. And don't be afraid to walk around the long way for those gas bags. Generally don't want to play them, but you know, if someone pulls it in a farming key and you have infinite time anyway, it's not bad that bad to kill him, but ideally you're not playing them. This pull is pretty easy. It's just like a butcher and some mobs, so I decided to pull the big mob, the gas bag. You can just not do this. You can also just play the first mob and then play the gas bag with the bridge. So the gas bag is doing pulsing raid damage, and he also does this vile eruption, which is what we call the frontal bactyl. So don't be in front or behind him when it goes off, or you'll get disoriented. If you get hit as the tank, by the way, it will disorient you and your whole group will die because you know, you're disoriented, so mobs will naturally hit your group instead of you. Also, don't walk too far on this bridge or you'll get ambushed, as you can see. We have finished most of the pack off, so I'm actually choosing to proc it by walking down the bridge, and it spawns a bunch of these mobs. These mobs do damage, by the way, when they jump, so just be very mindful of your health when the gas bag is taking you down and the mobs are jumping around. One thing that can be annoying, by the way, if you've been watching, this gas bag drops some swirlies, and when he's dropping the puddles, so those swirlies do no damage, but the swirlies when the mobs die, as we're about to see here, actually are one-shots, so they're very different. They're like the same graphic, but they're very different in functionality, so that's a little bit scary. As always, watch out for the sludge spewer interrupt. Next, we'll talk about Gorechop, so we're moving into Gorechop. A lot of people like to play it with these 2 mobs at the entrance. If you are newer to tanking, then don't do this. Just pull these with the bridge and play him alone. This Gorechop is actually kind of a tank check because he does Hateful Strike somewhat often, and if you don't have a cooldown, you can die, or if you don't have active mitigation, you'll definitely die on a high enough key level, so watch out for that. Also, he does summon these adds. The adds leaps are very dangerous, but their melees are not dangerous at all. So and if you're moving around, you can dodge the leaps, however. So if you're low on health, just like keep moving and don't run into where other people were, and you should survive. The main mechanic on this fight is he casts Tenderizing Smash, which pulls everyone in, and then you have to walk out of it. So ideally tank the boss away from puddles. And also you can see this fence that he drops. Every time when he casts Tenderizing Smash, you need to watch at the fence. Like this fence is going to drop down, and it'll have 2 safe spots. So pick a safe spot, and then everyone just goes to that safe spot. By the way, there's 2 fences, so you stand in the safe spot, and then you move out of it for the second. All right, so that's this boss. If you get hit by that, it's almost certainly death. It puts a massive bleed on you and has a pretty big hit. You can maybe save that person if you have like an external or something, but yeah, just watch out for it. Every time you cast Tenderizing Smash, you just watch for, as you're moving out, you just watch for the gate every time. Okay, so that's this boss, and we will move on to this quarter. So in this area, you're fighting a random mini boss every time. There's 3 mini bosses. Whichever one wins the duel is the one you're fighting. This time we got Doki GG is what we call him. Savage Flurry is a massive tank hit. This does a lot of damage. If you're like not ready for it, you can easily fall over as a tank. He also does Whirlwind. This graphic, by the way, is inaccurate sometimes. Make sure you run very far. I'm like playing Vengeance DH, so I kind of just stand in it, but you can run. This graphic is lying. Just make sure you run really far if you're in melee. He also does Earth Crusher, which is like an AoE hit. You're going to want to stun the Arbalest while that is happening, if possible. If you're having a lot of trouble with this mob, you can kite the Savage Flurry. So if I wasn't like a Vengeance Demon Hunter, if I was some weak tank like a Brewmaster, I would just like maybe roll away or Transcendence out when he casts Savage Flurry, and it would do no damage as long as it's already started the cast, like if it's in the channel portion of it. Then we get to Heaven. There's two mobs here. You can either get Heaven or Haruja. The other one also had two mobs. So Heaven does a frontal, and he also does Colossal Smash and Infernal Roar. Honestly, these mobs are pretty simple. The second one is usually very easy. Just like heal and don't stand in frontals, I guess, and that's it. And don't pull them with any extra stuff. Next, there is the Bridge Pull. So this one is very hard to skip now. This captain is immune to CC, and he also detects. Actually, I'm pretty sure he detects. I haven't actually tried invising him. This pull is somewhat dangerous because there's two Arbalists that put out a bleed, and they also do shoot. So if you get the bleed from these, probably use a personal. The captain also has an aura, which he's putting out, which reduces the AoE damage they take. So you have to kill the captain and then kill an Arbalest. Don't waste damage on Arbalest while he's alive. If you have like single target skills, then it can hit the Arbalest for full damage. His aura is coded weirdly. It only reduces damage from AoE skills. But still, it's usually better to focus the captain. It is also viable to CC one Arbalest and then walk away from the pack. So you only have to fight one Arbalest at a time. If this pack is really hard for you, that's a pretty good tactic. All right, next, for the third mini boss, usually people are skipping it. If you have a Warlock, you can gateway this way. If you're a tank, you can also just pull it to the side, and then the group runs through and dies. Or you die and you get rezzed. You can also, don't spawn it yet, you can like stay back. So you can see where we are here before we spawn it. If you get a speed boost, you can run through. So it's already spawned, but technically before there would be two of them fighting. You can like drop a Windrush here and then like pull three, and then everyone just runs through and you won't pull it. Or you can pull to the side as I said as a tank, or you can gateway. All right, so this boss is very difficult. Be aware this is probably going to be a pretty big pug killer. Brutal combo as a tank, just like use anything and you'll probably survive. So he drops these oppressive banners, which apply a stacking slow to the group. So in high keys, most likely we're not going to be killing these banners and we're going to be dealing with the slow. In lower keys though, especially in farming keys, especially pugs, you're going to want to be focusing down the oppressive banner because not everyone in the group is going to know how to play this combo while slowed. Also, the Might of Maldraxxus, it has been nerfed to jump to the middle, so don't expect it to do the damage that it just did. If you're playing like a Paladin, you can play double Freedom. Freedom's work to dispel the slow from this. So he has three moves. One is Crushing Smash. By the way, this is very wide at the start. It starts wide and is skinny like towards that. I think it's not skinny, it's just wide. It's wider than it looks. Massive Cleave is bugged on PTR. I'm sure it'll get fixed for live, so this is half the room. So generally, my strategy for this boss, if I was like not playing a tank, would be to stand like around here, like max melee range from him. And then if he does Deafening Crash, I can like move out of it. If he does Massive Cleave or Crushing Smash, I just move to the side, which you can do while you're slowed. Although a lot of classes have like ways to just cheese the slow, so it's not as important for them, like Freedom, Tiger's Lust, Disengage for Hunters can purge the slow, I think, etc. So just be aware of like how your class is going to deal with this. Think about this boss like before you even start the dungeon, so you're not dying. He also sends two people down to PvP. The winner comes up with a 10% buff, I think, and the loser has a 10% debuff. It's almost always better for one person to just like FF and /sit, so they get take extra damage, so that the two people are coming up ASAP. Especially if your strategy involves killing the banners, like you can really fall behind on banner DPS if both your DPS are downstairs, like using healing potions and defensives and interrupts to stay alive for longer. All right, so that's Xav. Boss is a massive pug killer, by the way. Be scared of this boss. Onward to Mordretha, since I think we actually wiped on the boss or I had to solo it. I don't remember. So this boss has a relatively strong tank hit in Reaping Scythe. Make sure you have a personal for all of them. It's every 15 seconds, so it's kind of reminiscent of some of the War Within bosses, War Within Season 1. Dark Devastation is a frontal, just move. It also casts this Manifest Death, so these ad circles actually don't do that much damage. You can usually stack them up to spawn the ads better. It also does Grasping Rift here. You can see it cast this Rift. Ideally, you want to tank the boss like somewhat in the middle so you can move away from the Rift. It pulls people in. If it does pull you in, you don't die, you just get stunned for a long time, but it's curse dispellable, so you think about that. When the boss kind of just repeats mechanics until she phases. When it phases, it does a big hit. This Echoes of Carnage actually does massive damage when it goes off, as you can see. Boom. And in this phase, there will be Echoes of Battle along with all of the phase 1 mechanics. So if you're tanking, try to stay away from like the echoes that are spawning. Also, this is kind of a scary overlap. There's Dark Devastation, which is the frontal that moves. Plus these charging pigs. Just look around the arena for them and be ready to like think about how you're going to move to dodge both the frontal and the pigs. Basically, this whole phase is about dodging overlap mechanics and not standing and stuff. The heal check is honestly kind of easy. You're not taking that much damage. It's more about just dodging everything. So do keep that in mind as well. All right, and that's going to be it for the Theater of Pain quick guide. This actually ended up being a lot longer than I was hoping for, but there it is. There's just kind of a lot to this dungeon. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to tune into the stream if you have more questions, and peace out.